So, welcome back to the M365 podcast Today, I'm joined by someone who has spent more than 15 years helping organizations modernize, automate, and transformation their technology landscape with Microsoft Cloud technologies. He is the CTO of 350, a Microsoft focused consultancy, founder of the Dutch Cloud Meetup, and frequent international speaker, blogger, event organizer, and Microsoft Azure MVP. His expertise spans cloud architecture, DevOps, infrastructure as code, platform engineering, cloud transformation, and helping teams deliver software faster and more reliable. If you ever wondered how elite teams automate infrastructure, building scalable cloud environments, and make DevOps actually works in real life, this is episode for you. Welcome, Mike van der Gaag.
Thank you, Mirko. Nice to be here as well. And that,
Thank you.
that was quite a mouthful of an introduction.
Yeah. Um, Before we deep dive into the topic, can you a little bit tell what was your way into the IT?
Oh yeah, that's what a quite normal route, I think. Oh, um, especially as a child, I already wanted to go to IT and do something with computers. I really didn't have something in mind what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do something with computers. So Um, I started I started doing basically a study on that as well. Finished that directly. Got hired by a company in the Netherlands, dat is CMG. CMG, I think nowadays. And from there on, I moved into IT, moved into the development as well. First started off doing basically the old stuff, building Windows Forms applications, and everything else. Then I got hired by a company called Motion 10. Um, they no, they basically did SharePoint and integration stuff with BizTalk. So what I've done there is basically move towards SharePoint and see how SharePoint works and everything else, all in an on-prem scenario. Then came the days that Office 365 came out. Um, and we also needed to use Azure in combination with Office 365 and everything else. So that's basically where my journey into Azure started as well. Um, did that for a couple of years, and then a company called 350 came along, um, and I started working there. And basically, the only thing I did there is work in the cloud. We only did cloud implementations, cloud transformations, cloud migrations. And that's the cool thing about your introduction as well, is that it's a little bit outdated already. Because I don't, yeah, for some part, I still work for 350, but 350 was acquired in 2025 by a company called Data Balance in the Netherlands.
Okay.
So basically, we are now part of the Data Balance group, and we're working towards final integration of 350 itself as well. So that's basically also where my role changed from being a CTO at 350 to now being the head of technology for the Microsoft part of the company. So there's a lot of things changed already, and even the user group um, is changed as well, because I basically now run a user group together with Danny Kruger in the Netherlands, called Azure Heroes.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I know Azure Heroes. That's
Yeah.
cool. So the Dutch cloud meeting is now the Azure Heroes.
Yeah. Basically what we did in the past is that when Corona came, we noticed that doing user groups, meetups, and everything else was getting really hard. Um, Basically, Henry and I, where I did the user group with, were not a complete fan of doing online meetups,
Mm.
because we like the to have the conversations and discussions as well with the participants, and that's you miss that really on doing on the online ones. And after Corona, it was really hard to start off again and get a lot of people involved and everything else. So basically, we stopped doing the Dutch Cloud Meetup. And the fun thing is, a few months later, Danny took over the Meetup group on Meetup. I didn't know about that, and I met Danny, I think one of a year ago, um, on one of the Azure Heroes days. and for some reason it really clicked. So we became friends, um, and I started working with Azure Heroes as well. And then I noticed that he just took over our meetup group and everything else. So it's really a cool combination on how things come together and how basically how small the IT world is as well.
Yeah. Um, is there something you can say you learned from running these communities?
Yeah, basically that's costs a lot of time. You have to put a lot of effort in it. But that's also the thing I really love because I really love doing things related to IT. I really love being able to share knowledge and also to network with a lot of people as well and see and have discussions around the most different topics that they are. Um, and also getting those people together basically in a room. And the thing that I've learned the most, I think, it's that you think it's you think there would be a lot of people that are are wanting to come to one location, but it still seems to be a bit hard to get a lot of people involved in the same location and also basically doing that on-prem with them as well. Um, and that's I think that's also something in the way people are now working. And basically, if you look at the young people, they are more of they're more infinite with the online way of working, and that's a whole change. And that also helped me in doing my work as a CTO and then head of technology as well. Is that young people look at things very different than the old people. I would not say that I'm old, but there's a real differentiation there, right?
Yeah. Um, so let's a little jump a little bit, yeah, in the state of Azure and cloud in 2026. What are biggest cloud trends you're seeing right now?
There are a lot of cloud trends. Um, I would mainly say is that and basically that's also because I now work for data balance as well, and it's basically the company has a different mindset than we had in the past. Basically, if you look at the how 350 works, basically we were a cloud only company. The only thing we did basically was doing Microsoft's cloud, Office 365, or maybe Azure. Um, Data Balance is one of the largest MSPs in the Netherlands as well. And they also have their own data center. So basically, we have our own data center on prem somewhere in the Netherlands. So the mindset there is also a bit different than how our company was. But the cool thing about that was is that we also saw a shift in the market where companies also more moving to hybrid scenarios, all because of the America discussion and how that is run. So they're really looking at a sovereign cloud in combination with Azure or maybe a data center on-prem and also having that stuff on-prem. So basically the combination of what happened with data balance is that we have some cool stuff that we can do together because we have our own data center, we have the knowledge of the cloud, so we really can work towards those hybrid scenarios as well. But for some other part, we also still have full cloud only companies that really want to focus on the cloud part as well and don't see um, the things around the sovereign cloud and everything. They see it, but they don't think that it's that important.
Uh, uh, yeah, I think that that's interesting transformation. And last, I had a podcast, and there I learned Active Directory is not dead. I think it was a dead
No,
product.
it's certainly not that. We
Um,
still see it a lot.
but uh, what mistakes our organizations still make? Yeah, I call it cloud transformation.
What do you mean? What's your question?
Yeah, what are the mistakes our organizations still making during cloud transformation?
That it's easy.
Okay.
That's basically the whole problem I see with basically the Azure cloud, or may it be AWS or the Google Cloud as well, is that it's so easy to just get started,
Uh,
creating an account, setting up um, the credentials, and then basically creating a VM. You can do that within 5 minutes, and then you have a data center up and running. But yeah, do they really know how it works? And they really understand on how the connections work and everything else? How do you set up MFA? Make sure Entra is completely safe? No, they don't. And that's basically that's still the problem we see with a lot of companies where we speak to companies where they have started using Azure and they just started off, and we needed to completely set up the complete environment again because they just did something, and they do it from their point of knowledge and see, oh, okay, that's easy, but they don't look further than just creating a VM and having it up and running. They still think that everything is secure by default. But as we know, mainly in Azure, nothing is secure by default, and they are moving that way, making everything secure by default. What it wasn't in the past, meaning that if you just created a VM or a SQL database, it's open to the complete world in some kind of way. Of course, there's still authentication in there, but you also need to make arrangements for that as well.
And did you see, especially I think the the last 2 years, the AI topic is growing everywhere. So is it also an Azure cloud topic? Is this
Yeah,
AI topic?
it's a topic everywhere, right? It's not just maybe a cloud topic. It's an M365 topic. It's a Windows topic. It's basically an everywhere topic, and you can start off even doing a conference without having something related to AI. Um, so it's really, yeah, it's really, it's at some point it really gets annoying, right? Um, for me then, especially because everything where you look at conferences and everything else, it always needs to be AI. It is AI this, AI by that, and it's also fun. I really love AI. Don't get me wrong about that. Um, I use it on a daily basis. Even working on infrastructure as code, working on my Azure environment, and everything else, I use AI, of course. And I really think that companies all around should really invest in moving towards AI. Um, but at some point, yeah, it's how do I say that nicely? It's the buzzword, right? It's making everything about AI, around AI, and yeah, we really need to invest in towards AI. But from my point of view, there we should really stop using it as a buzzword as well for everything, and even making everything possible with an agent. We need to have an Azure agent. We need to have an M365 agent. We need a PowerPoint agent. We need a Word agent. We got a lot of agents already. That's fine if it works and if it works perfectly. But we really need to focus on doing one thing right. I think doing one thing right is also moving towards having good adoption for AI. And we see a lot of companies having problems with that as well. Really need to look at towards AI and how do we want to use it. Um, use the public AI. We still see companies using the public AI with data that they really can't use on public AI, uh, and people don't understand that risk completely fully at this point.
Yeah. That's also a nice topic. I was on a hardware variety, and also they had also PC towers now with integrated AI. So
Yeah.
I really I found it really funny. So monitors everything. I think you, it's something in the tech you have to label it today. Everything with AI. But another topic you are, I think, yeah, you're often mentioned for it's infrastructure as a code.
Yep.
Uh, can you, for people that are not familiar with this concept, can you a little bit explain it?
Yeah. So let me explain it then as simple as possible. I always see it as a piece of code or a piece of writing, depending on the language you use,
Mhm.
that represents your infrastructure. So may it be DNS entries, may it be Azure resources, may it be databases and everything else, and
Mm.
basically specifying that in a piece of code. So just a piece of writing. Um, and having that available in, for example, version control.
Mm.
Um, so that it's really easy to maintain your infrastructure and also keep that in line with the rules or regulations you have within a company. So, for example, if I would be in a company, I needed to create a VM. I can do
Mhm.
that manually. That's easy, right? So creating one VM is easy manually. And maybe then I also have to do some configurations as well. That's easy. But if I ask the same person to do it 10 times, it will be hard. It will not be hard, but the hard point about it is then he will never do it 10 times the exact same way. We see differences there because it's all done manually. So if we specify that in a piece of infrastructure as code,
Mm.
um, he just runs the script 10 times and he gets 10 times the same result and not 10 times a different result. That's where I really, that's the thing I love of infrastructure as a code. And we see it a lot within IT, especially within cloud environments as well, even on-prem environments that
Well,
we are running as well. Um, it's it's really handy as well. And it's also a cost saver as well because doing a lot of things twice is made easy as well because you just run a piece of infrastructure as code with different input variables, so you can reuse it every
mm,
time.
yeah, yeah. I think the one problem I understand, it saves time, especially yeah, if you're doing this boring stuff again and again. And the other thing I think it makes it more, yeah, also more handleable for all the other things you have to do. You have to secure your VMs as and then you have I think, yeah, then you can do all the same things on Defender and so on. I don't know if it works with all the tools on Azure. Um, but what see you especially, or what problems does it also yeah, solve?
It's also a piece of automation, right? So basically, there are a lot of ways where you can how you can specify infrastructure as code, right? So you have, for example, you have Terraform, you have Bicep, um, and I mainly don't have you always see discussion around in the community on that you should write Terraform and that you should write Bicep, and I really don't have any obligations since to a specific tool or maybe Pulumi as well. You can use a lot of things already nowadays. Um, and basically the problems that it solves, it solves also a part of the automation part, and also about the configuration drift, depending on how you set it up and how you configure it, of course. So basically by default, it doesn't solve anything. But if you look, for example, in a way that you can solve a configuration drift. So you can imagine that if you deploy, let's say, an app service in the Azure platform, you can do that manually, and then you configure it and everything else. You can set environment variables and everything else. Do that manually, and basically, even doing that manually um, will get you into problems. So you maybe make a typo or everything else. You do it for one customer, then for the second customer, and then you have different configurations. You maybe have a typo somewhere. So if you have that in an infrastructure as code language, like for example Terraform, you have everything specified out. You sure you will not make typos because uh, it's all in infrastructure as code. So you have specified it once already. Um, and you can automate the process around doing the deployments. But what it also solves is that if you, for some reason, make a manual change in the Azure platform, because people have, you always see within companies that people have specific rights within an Azure subscription. For example, maybe be a contributor, and they think, okay, let me just set this service completely open to the internet. You can use the infrastructure as code as a manual configuration drift check, to check if there are made configuration changes. So you can really do the state management part of doing it via Terraform, or maybe work towards, when you're more into Bicep and Azure and everything else, you could use deployment stacks
Mm.
to basically close down specific resources so that you don't have any configuration drift anymore.
Mm. You have also say two words, two products, Bicep Terraform, and I also
Yeah.
will not add RM templates. How do you compare them?
Um, but basically, I see Bicep and ARM templates as exactly the same. Basically, Bicep is an abstraction layer on top of ARM, so that it makes it easier for you to write infrastructure as code for the Azure platform. So Bicep now mainly points towards um, the Azure the Azure platform. There are possibilities to move from the Azure platform. I will tell you that a little bit later. And Terraform is basically the main difference I see between those two is that, of course, Terraform works for AWS, works for Azure, Google, Cloudflare, you name it, and it's almost possible with Terraform. Bicep is mainly for the Azure platform. That's the main difference, I think. Besides that, um, Terraform maintains the state.
Mhm.
That's something that Bicep cannot do. So
Mhm.
what Terraform basically does, it maintains a state file of your state from your resources, meaning that there's also a way of checking your configuration drift, checking your changes that you are doing towards your cloud resources.
Mm.
And that's something that Bicep doesn't really have, because Bicep really sees the resources in
Mhm.
Azure as your state. And you can do a what if to see basically the changes you are doing. But it doesn't has a complete state management capability around the language itself. And what I've meant with extending Bicep, there is a preview functionality now in Bicep so that you can create your own extensions.
Mm.
So basically, what you can do is now create HTTP extensions. There are already extensions for Cloudflare, for Azure DevOps, for GitHub Enterprise, so that you can basically make your specific resources like a Cloud for DNS entry or a repository also in Bicep. But you have to build it yourself, because there's a C# extension, so you can start building your own extensions.
Okay. Uh, so the it's the infrastructure as code. It's all based on C sharp. I think the most Microsoft products, 365 and so on, run on PowerShell and Graph API. How does this work?
You mean infrastructure scope?
Yeah.
Basically, Bicep is its own language, right? So basically, Bicep is more or less looks like YAML. Um, Terraform has its own HashiCorp language, um, and you can still use PowerShell or C Sharp. It's basically depends on what you want to do and what kind of scenario, right? So you can even use the Azure CLI to make your configuration changes. But more or less, if you for even as in the infrastructure scope part, if you use Pulumi, I guess, yeah, I think Pulumi is also that's a C sharp representation of doing the infrastructure as code. So there are a lot of choices depending on what kind of language you want to use, and you can always use them in different kind of scenarios.
Mm. And what is the role? I think a little bit about the yeah how implement the infrastructure as code, how implementation headed on, I say, secret and governance.
So basically, you always have to check on how you deal with secrets, right? And it's no different if you create an application or if you create infrastructure as code as well. You always have to check on where you keep your secrets, how you save them, and how you maintain them. So, for example, you can in infrastructure as code, you can reference key vault secrets,
Well,
or if you use them in an automation like GitHub Enterprise, um, you can save them in a repository secret or an action secret. It's all depending on your use case and how you want to deal with it as well.
so have you a real use case scenario from a project without play or the
Yeah, I can explain a use case. So, for example, basically a use case we are working at this point now is basically creating a landing zone in Azure for a customer, having different subscriptions, different management groups, of course, and also making a subscription vending system around that as well. And basically, what we are doing now, we have set up a GitHub Enterprise environment for that customer with different kind of projects and repositories, so that they can work towards a, a one single pane of glass for the platform, but also maintain those secrets. So what we do there is the secret that we really need are saved as um, environment secrets within GitHub Enterprise. But we also want to move towards a system where we don't really need those secrets. So basically now, if you look at towards automation with GitHub Enterprise and GitHub Actions, of course, you can use federated identity credentials, basically specifying um, on your credentials which system can communicate. So you can, to give you an idea, you can create managed identities within the Azure platform. And with those managed identities, you really say to Microsoft, okay, I have an identity and I really don't know, I don't want to know the secret, but I give that identity specific rights. So that identity can, for example, go to my key vault. And with federated identities, I can explain a complete scenario for that identity and save that on the identity to say, okay, I have a GitHub action, and this GitHub action can use that identity. So then I really don't have to think about how do I want to maintain my secrets.
and how does infrastructure the code infrastructure as code work together with DevOps?
It basically enables a certain DevOps scenarios, right? So basically, um, you if I will look towards DevOps, you also looking towards how you organize your teams, how you
Mm,
want to work with your teams, um, mainly make them self-organizing as well. So you have some kind of way where they can do their own things in
yep,
their own environment.
mm,
So you want to give them a piece of the platform and really have them maintain that piece of platform. And if I look towards infrastructure as code, it's a way for them to maintain that piece of platform and work towards a useful platform for them and maintain it themselves without me being there and being hammered with questions. Okay, can I have an app service? Can I have this? Can I have that? No, I give them rules and regulations on a part of my platform, and they can do whatever they want in there based on those rules and regulations.
mm. Um, I also in DevOps, I see, yeah, it's I would say it's an older product. It has been here for yeah some years. But have you an idea why so many companies struggle with DevOps actually?
Oh, you mean the product Azure DevOps? Do you mean that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, no, it's more. And do you think? Do you mean that companies are struggling with it, basically
yeah,
having it maintained and everything else? Oh,
yeah,
I really don't see that, but um, basically, I was more referring to DevOps as being a
yeah.
principle and a culture, right? So, um, from my point of view, DevOps is really a culture within a company that um, should help a company do more automation and everything else, may it be with infrastructure as code or other stuff. Um, But if we look towards Azure DevOps, I think it's a good product um, that can help you with setting things up. And I don't see a lot of companies struggling with it. It's more about, um, and it's also the same thing I refer to with Azure. It's easy to start with, and doing a thing good is hard.
Mm,
Um, but because it's easy to get started, you see a lot of companies moving from doing just one project to doing multiple projects within Azure DevOps, and they really don't have an idea on how they have to set it up correctly to have those complete integrations they really want.
mm. Um, yeah, I think let us go back to DevOps as I say ah uh as goddamn yeah as a principle. Um, how much of DevOps is technology and yeah I say versus culture.
I think it's that's a hard question. I think more or less you're working towards 80% of culture. No, it's not. No, it's not more or less. It's culture and processes, right? Even it really doesn't mind which kind of technology you use. It's more a way of how you work and how you get those principles in there.
Mm,
It's not about the tooling. The tools
so,
enable you to do something.
mm,
Um, so that's the mainly people see it as technology, but it's really not, because you have to have a specific kind of way of working, and you have a lot of tools, right, to enable you doing DevOps.
mm. And there's I think on the yeah I say it's a little bit add on, but there's I found a new uh yeah I don't know buzzword on DevOps. A lot of people now discuss GitOps. Can you a little bit picture what this is?
I really am. I'm a person that really is not into the buzzwords. So I really don't follow all those buzzwords. But if I should try to explain DevOps and slash GitOps, I think GitOps is more working towards the technology using Git, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's I see there's I think that's the only difference. Um, because you move towards using Git, and that's more or less also already stating which kind of technology you use, right? But even you also have, for example, DevSecOps and DevBizOps. You when DevOps was a thing, right? I still think DevOps is a thing, but back in the days, let me say it that way, um, when DevOps really started off, you all got those abbreviations of DevSecOps, DevBizOps, and it's still about doing this exact same thing from my point of view. Because if you develop applications in a DevOps team, you also need to think about security. So why call it DevSecOps? Because it's a principle of you developing software, and if you develop software, you need to think about security. And of course, you need to because the DevSecOps, I think the abbreviation came from development and operations. That's why they've started with DevSecOps. So you have development, security, and operations. But in my point of view, a DevOps team should always be a team with people that know different stuff. So you should have security people in there. You should have people coming from the business, but there's more knows the business side of you, and work towards one
Mm,
integrated team
mm,
that can develop software or maintain environments,
mm,
and do that all in all one operation.
mm. But did you think GitHub will become the default platform?
Yeah, you never know, right? But there are still, yeah, for Microsoft, these. and people that are really into Microsoft, I guess GitHub will be one in some kind of way, right? Be one of the preferred platforms. But I don't think Azure DevOps will go away. Not anytime soon. Because there are still a lot of large companies um, that really invest into DevOps, in Azure DevOps. Um, and I think GitHub Enterprise is it's moving towards basically the difference between GitHub and Azure DevOps is more or less Azure DevOps is set up in a way for the larger companies, right? And GitHub itself came from a community standpoint, running for the community. It has not been set up in a way that people think, okay, an enterprise will use our system. That's not how GitHub started. GitHub started really as a community effort and supporting those community efforts. And it's now moving towards being the enterprise platform. And it's gone a long way. And I think they really made good steps. But for example, if you look at enterprise boards, I know a lot of companies that really like the enterprise board stuff, the
Uh,
Azure DevOps boards.
uh,
More the visualization, how it works, how they can drag everything around. But you also already have GitHub enterprise projects, for example. And it also looks very nice and very handy at work. And you also see companies basically doing both. So they have Azure DevOps for doing their projects, engineering and everything else, making sure that every work item is there. And then you have the source code in GitHub. That's also a good combination. So I don't think um, there is a specific preferred platform because you also still have platforms like GitLab and
uh,
Git, that can be used to use Git.
uh,
So I think there
yeah,
will be a lot of choices for companies always to use a specific platform.
and in your daily work, look a little bit into the AI topic. Is there how is the way changed for infrastructure teams working with AI actually?
I think they move faster than they did. So if you look at writing infrastructure as code, um, normally you would have to do everything yourself, right? You have to write every line of code yourself.
Yeah.
Now I explain a scenario to get a Copilot, for example. I explain a scenario of what I want to do, and then just ask, okay, write me the Terraform for this. And then in less than 2 minutes, I have a lot of lines of code, and hopefully it does what I've asked it to do. And then you only need, and that's the thing that I really find important. You need to validate what came out of Copilot, not just do okay. It created this infrastructure as code. I will just right away deploy it to my Azure environment. No, you have to do the validation because, and that's a thing we have discussions around with companies as well. Is some people are scared of the fact that when I use AI, that people and their coworkers and everything else will get dumber because they really don't have to write it themselves anymore. No, um, they just ask AI and say, okay, create me this PowerShell script. I want to delete all SharePoint sites. Give me a PowerShell script to do this. And AI will make it within a few seconds, but people don't understand what
Mm,
all those lines of code are.
mm,
So what we do within our company as well is that basically everyone within our company can use AI. If they want to
oh,
use AI, they can use AI.
mm,
But the main point there is that if I see a pull request or any line of code
mm,
and people can't explain to me what that line of code is,
mm.
I will send them back to the drawing board and let them start off again.
Well,
Because that's
uh,
a really important thing. You need to understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you can use AI to fasten your work and make it even faster. But you have to know what you're doing and be able to explain what you're doing as well.
So that's a really cool thing, I think, to validate AI generated infrastructure. And I think it's helped also the people learning more what they're doing. And I
Yep.
think, yeah, uh, some surprising. I think there was a lot of company they have surprising results when they use AI. When we look at some LinkedIn post or a community post. Um, can you a little bit more how you for yourself validate AI generated infrastructure?
Yeah. Basically, how I validate my so if I work with infrastructure as code and use AI to validate, basically I use AI to create for example, my Terraform code or my Bicep code.
Mhm.
Um, I haven't in the last couple of months, I haven't had a scenario where I just started off myself. No, I basically for every piece of code I wrote, I used AI,
Mm,
just because it's easy to get started and everything else. The thing I do after AI generated my code, I basically really go from line to line.
mm,
But I also use specific instructions, specific prompt files, and everything else to make the generated code in a way I want it to be.
mm,
So AI really, in that point of view, AI really knows me. And by using GitHub Enterprise and, for example, GitHub Copilot, it really has contact on how we write code as a company.
mm,
So it will also generate it almost exactly the same way as we normally do, making it easy for us to validate as well, and also easy to go through it as well. And if you know, I've written infrastructure as code for years, so I know basically what it does, how it does it, and how it should work. Making it also easy for me to be able to validate all the lines of codes. Um, and just basically going through it and see what it does. And if I see something that I don't understand, um, I also try to learn from what AI generates for me. So I've had situations where AI generated some piece of code where I really didn't understand what it was doing. So
mm,
I really needed to take the time as well to basically start learning about, okay, he generated something cool for me, but I didn't understand it. Let me just take an hour to go through it and see what it did and why it did that, and not doing different kind of scenarios I was thinking about. So that really helps me as well of basically learning and everything else as well, because you see different scenarios.
mm. Um, when someone says, or people, they like to start with infrastructure as code today. So what tips can you give them how they should start?
Um, Basically, at first, look at which kind of language you want to start off with, because there
Mhm.
are a lot, and mostly the language you start with is dependent on the company you work for. So in the past, our company, uh, we had we said we do Bicep only. That was because we were a Microsoft company. We were really focused on Microsoft stuff. So we said Bicep only. And basically now at the company, we say, okay, we focus on Terraform because we do much more than just Microsoft. We also do on-prem stuff. We do Cloudflare stuff, Commvault, you name it. Basically, we do all kind of stuff. We do GitHub Enterprise. So we really want to focus on one language, so that basically everything within the company can read and write and understand what people are making. So that's where we said, okay, we will move towards Terraform. So that's basically the first thing you need to do. But also um, in the basis, start off, okay, why do I want to use infrastructure as code? There should also always be a why in why you are doing stuff. Don't just do stuff. No, think about why am I doing stuff?
Mm,
Why am I building infrastructure? Um, and if you have that, just look forwards towards which kind of language fits the best. because we even see companies where um, and customers that basically say, okay, we have a Microsoft only environment, and we really want to start off with infrastructure as code. And then basically we always tell them, okay, we explain them what Terraform is, we explain them what Bicep is, for example. Um, and then we'll also look at the learning curve of the people within the company. Because from my opinion, I see um, to get started off with Terraform, it's much harder to do because if you look at state management and how you need to do that in the correct way, we see a lot of people going wrong at that side. And then it's much easier to start off with Bicep. So, for example, if a Microsoft company says to me, okay, we really want to start doing infrastructure as code, we have a Microsoft only environment, and it shouldn't be that hard to get started. Then I would have a discussion. Okay, maybe then Bicep fits you best. But if they say, okay, but next year we are thinking about also doing AWS, yeah, then it will be a different conversation. So it's always looking at the use cases and the scenarios we have aligned.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's jump into the fast fire round. It's I give some short questions and you say what comes in your mind. So the
Oh,
first,
okay. Terrible.
first is Azure DevOps or GitHub?
Get up.
Most underrated Azure service.
Azure App Service configuration. Azure App configuration. Yeah.
Most overrated technology trend.
AI. No, 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 no. That was a joke. Boo. That's a hard one. Most overrated. Yeah, I really don't have anything that comes into mind. Sorry.
Yeah, it's also cool and there are no overrated.
No, yeah, but yeah, they all are always over. What are really, really overrated? No, no, I don't have something popping up.
Yeah, then it's also okay. What is the biggest cloud mistake companies make?
That it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that a lot of companies that really start off in the clouds, we have seen them a lot. That it's really easy to be secure by default. Let me put it that way.
Okay. What was the best career advice you ever received?
That's a cool one. I think that would be that just be yourself, and make sure that you have fun in what you're doing.
Mm, if you could say Microsoft one feature they should roll out tomorrow, what should it be?
Oh, that's also a tough one. That's just because of I really look at things very from a simple point of view. So if there's something that I need that isn't there, I just create it. So that makes it hard for me. Um, oh, that's
Then the best tip is for Microsoft take the tools from your board.
yeah,
The best.
no, but for example, basically, in the past, and that's something I did a lot of years ago. I I noticed that, for example, there wasn't an option um, to deploy your Power BI templates, your Power BI reports via Azure DevOps. So I created an extension for it, and it has still a lot of downloads as well, and still being used on Azure DevOps as well. So I always look at things. I like the gaps between the products as well, right? Because that also as a company, those gaps give me opportunities. If Microsoft just created everything, yeah, that there wouldn't be any fun anymore. Uh, So, but if I look technology wise, I would really love, because I'm also a Bicep fanboy. I work a lot with Terraform, but I'm also a fan of Bicep. I would really love that they, um, it's now preview, but and I really hope that they bring it to GA, the extensibility of Bicep. I would really love if they bring it to GA. Let me put it. Yeah.
Um, Bitterballen or Veganel?
Oh, that's the hard one. Depends on my mood. If I drink a beer, I would like Bitterball.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite bit productivity habit?
My putting up music very loud, basically
That's
too loud.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I say thank you. This was yeah, really great record. Thank you for your time. So my last question is, what should everyone taking from this session when he can take one thing he should remind?
Basically, the same as the advice I got as well is basically do the things you love to do. Um, Basically, be open for the community, and always try to support the community as well. Uh, um, and basically also looking at technology. Basically, technology isn't an easy thing. You really need to sometimes overthink stuff as well. Um, and make sure that, yeah, just make sure you do the things you love. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing, I think.
Yeah. Then I say thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah.
This was a
Thank you
great
for
session.
inviting me.
And yeah. Cool. So have a nice day, and yeah. I hope we hear us next time again.
Yeah. Thank you.
So have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.